are now listening to United 96 Podcast on the RFK Refugees Podcast Network.
Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to United 96 here on the RFK Refugees Podcast Network. Ted here, John here to discuss all about the thrilling victory that Martinique just had on El Salvador, covering the Gold Cup. That's what our podcast is about, right, John?
It is. I have a lot of thoughts on it. Like, for instance, I know where Martinique is. I'm going to talk about a player on their team that I know. Yeah, it's going to be a good show.
Crushing for El Salvador. And I think El Salvador has a lot of ties to DC, and a lot of my hopes and dreams about igniting more fans into the stands by having a successful El Salvador national team player. So those goals are taking a big hit today with El Salvador, even though they've looked very good and have seemed to be pushing to get back in sort of that World Cup discussion. This was not a good game.
What do you get with the Gold Cup again?
Nothing.
Okay.
It's the Gold Cup.
That's what I thought.
There's no more Confederations Cup. There's no more of that. I think maybe this serves as some sort of CONCACAF Gold Cup for the Copa America. Maybe there was some qualification for that. I heard something about how the U.S. might not actually. I forget the rules of that. Who knows? There's going to be a lot of soccer in the U.S., by the way. A lot of soccer.
Yeah. I assume you're referring to the EPL teams coming and doing friendlies.
Oh, I'm talking about Wrexham versus LA Galaxy too. I
was going to say probably also Wrexham. Set your calendars, folks. It's summer. It's summer soccer summer madness.
But John, first, how you doing, my friend? How was your weekend?
Good. I went and saw some friends in Charlottesville. I have not feel like I've been to a friend's house in 5,000 years, so that was fun. I had to. Yeah, it's like the first time where a bunch of kids get together. It's a different party, Ted, when it's like you and all of your kids, and you're just like, who's watching them right now? Are you? I'm not watching them. Are you? I guess you're watching them. So yeah, it's a different breed of things. How about you? How was your weekend?
It was good. I went to the Kickers game, so that was not my last Kickers game, but the last game in the Richmond area that I will go to. So that certainly will be. That certainly was fun, and as always,
end of an era,
as they say. So eventually, all of this background here is going to come down. We'll see what I do with the new place.
It's going to be all Kickers scarves, just out of pure memories. It's all Kickers wall
after pure spite. Exactly, it's exactly what it's going to be.
That's right. And mine will be all forward Madison jerseys, all the one that I have.
And I will
just stretch wide.
And I will block your video. I will send audio radio jammers to your house. But yeah, they tied 2-2. Kind of a bad game. They took a lead early and then they gave up an own goal, and they just kind of were so distraught by that they then gave up another goal and nearly lost the game, and then got a fortunate penalty to tie it. They're definitely on the downswing. The peak was certainly last season. So
I think they came and lost that game in Audi Field, and ever since there's just been a slow bleed.
All right, well let's talk soccer. Let's get into the game that we all saw. DC United. We should be happier, right? We should be a happy mood.
I was thinking that what we needed to do as after a game like that, we needed to do the podcast then immediately and not wait a couple days, because if we had done this on Saturday night, I would have been pretty animated.
Yeah,
I was pretty happy, and then your weekend happens, and then you're like, and you're working. Ted and I had a day of work today, and now we're just sitting down. But yeah, no, let's talk about the thing that's good, and then talk about how it's not what we expected.
Ciad 95 says, "I'm so ready for this post-win Monday show." Well, we got it, my friend. We got it, folks.
Yeah, sorry, it's not as exciting as you might have hoped.
So let's get into. Obviously, this is taking place. This game is taking place during the Gold Cup. The U.S. DC are essentially, I can say with confidence, unaffected from the Gold Cup absences. They have no players that
just like we planned. It's the reverse spirit plan. It's like, what if we had no U.S. players on our team?
They did have some absences. Obviously, Taxi Funtas on the bench. Victor Paulson apparently having a family matter. Could not make the game. Steve Birnbaum suspended. I'm sure you'll have some fans that will argue as to whether that's an absence. So DC certainly had some absences. I would argue that the absences are in positions they can maybe afford. Cincinnati came into this game. No Brenner. I think his transfer is confirmed, still happening. I don't know what the status is of that.
They kept him out because Pedro Santos. Luis O'Brien tried to like chop his foot off with his with his cleats last time. So they're like, let's just not have him play.
So they had a sort of a forward line. I believe Dominic Baji was in there. So not their 100%. Obviously, Brandon Vasquez is with the Gold Cup team at this point. They're also without Matt Miazga, one of their top defenders. So certainly their losses, I will say, are a little bit on the upper end, and certainly can impact their games. They also played on Wednesday. They looked pretty well on Wednesday. They played against, I think it was, who they played on? I forget who they played on Wednesday. I'll have to go back and look. They played I know they won pretty emphatically. So I will say that I was kind of thinking everybody was doom and gloom about this game. And I'm like,
they played Toronto and they
beat
them, and then Toronto fired their coach.
Fired Bob Bradley. Yep, Bob Bradley no longer the coach of TSC. So 3-0 victory for them. But I remember thinking, I'm like, this is kind of setting up to be maybe a little bit of a trap game for them. They're coming off short rest. DC's had a full week of rest. No stupid mid-season friendly that gets thrown into the middle. None of that nonsense. Just straight up full week of training, full week of rest, and then right into the game. A team looking to, I think, kind of like reverse the bleeding. And I think this is a game based on the past two results, particularly the loss against RSL, that was kind of a must win. I think, would I have been upset if they had managed to get a draw if Cincy looked good? Sure. But I mean, I think if we're talking, this team magically after that Saturday still like kept themselves in the playoffs. So they were still certainly in the playoff picture. And then they needed to go out and get a victory to maintain that spot. And they did that move up. They stayed directly at ninth is where they started. Maybe they gave themselves a little more of a cushion against some of the teams chasing them. But let's get into the game. So obviously we have Taxi Futos on the bench. Maybe probably the only surprise I can think from that lineup. Maybe Paulson being missing, but he obviously had a family thing. So you had a back line of Brendan Heinzeich, Donovan Pines, and Derek Williams. No subs at all for the defense, which is a little scary.
Right. Knaus on the bench. Also, I saw today on a Sports Bog post that I believe Russell Knaus is the 12th longest tenured DC sports player in all the major leagues. So that's funny. I think it's his 7th season, and he's here through next year. So I just thought that was a good thing to call out. But yeah, the rest of the bench.
DC Sports Dog calling out, actually acknowledging DC United. I don't believe it.
Well, they also, Steve Birnbaum was even higher. I believe he's 8th in the list. The days where, that was, man. Remember blogs?
Yeah.
Remember man, what time? So for you kids who are, Gen Z people, there used to be things called blogs.
Yep.
And people cared a lot about them. The end.
Yeah, there was we all tried. Both John and I both tried our like, oh yeah, we're going to become bloggers. We're going to cover this team, and then it never quite. We make like 1 or 2 posts, and then we just kind of drop it.
And then we said, it'd be easier is if instead of typing, we just talked, and instead of planning, we just thought and spoke.
We just babbled. I realized early on, I was like, I'm not a good writer, but I can talk for days. I can talk for days about soccer,
and we have done.
Wow, this is a really bad Monday show, by the way. We have struck around the ankle. But anyway, Russell Knaus, you said, was out, obviously. So we had Chris Durkin, Lewis O'Brien, and Matthias Klick sort of manning that 3-man midfield. I will say, I'll start with who looked good. I don't think you could really point out anybody who I think looked bad or didn't look. Obviously Christian Benteke doesn't get the goal, but again, his hold up play, he had some really good opportunities. Very well.
He almost scores in the 2nd minute of the game, a header that it was about a hair wide of the post. So yeah, it was coming from the start.
Yeah, really, just I think solid performances all around. And then you had guys, role players like Pedro Santos and Christian Dahome kind of step up
scoring. I want to talk about Pedro Santos' goal and how dumb it was.
Go ahead.
It was extremely dumb. It was super duper dumb. So, there's a play where DC is coming up the field. I believe it was on the right wing, trying to think of who might have passed the ball. It might have been Nahar, it might have been Lewis O'Brien. Passes the ball right at Alvis Powell, right at him. Should have been the end of the play. He Alvis Powell phases, and the ball just moves right through his legs to Christian Benteke, who chops the ball and then works it wide. There's a cross. The cross is intended for Benteke, goes over to Pedro Santos, who has a shot that he chokes off and then moves and then scuffs a shot that bounces 5 times and then gets inside the post and scores a goal. It was extremely like it was just like a fumble towards the goal, and it was fantastic because if that was going to net you a goal, things are up. I was tweeting during the game, like everything about the game was just a series of fortuitous events. I think we cashed in a whole bunch of karma in this game. We put it all on black for the game against the top player, the top in the league, and you took all of it. So I'm curious about how next week goes now that we're sort of probably back to square on that front.
And Seattle's been a good team. They've been a very good team this year. The one criticism you could say about them is that
Cincinnati.
Sorry, what did I say?
So you said Seattle.
That's Seattle. Cincinnati, same difference. Difference.
Yeah,
Ohio
very close geographically.
Fan bases are similar in what they think about themselves. Apparently, some very upset Cincinnati fans. I don't know if you've seen the Instagram video, but
no, about the game.
But yeah. There's a guy apparently getting into it with one of the Metropolitan Police in the Cincy stand. I don't know.
Oh, I did see that. Yeah, that was a good troll bit for the District Ultras account.
But you talk about getting back to my original point, which was Cincinnati. They are a team that has been really good this season. But what they've been good at is keeping teams off the board and sort of eking out these 1-0 wins. They haven't, despite their firepower, despite their undoubtable firepower in Lucho Costa, Brandon Vasquez, again, only one of those there. They haven't been scoring 2-3 goals a game. They've been scoring 1, maybe 2 if they're fortunate, to try to get the game, try to win the games. So, when you have a team that comes in and is able to take advantage of maybe some of those chances and figure out ways to score. I think also defensively, you talk about the first goal being just kind of a mess for Cincy defensively, and no one stepping. Everybody kind of trying to block or play the block, and no one really stepping to know either. I guess it's kind of one of those things where everybody thinks the other person's going to be the one to step, and that's in how you end up with a goal like that.
That is usually a DC move. That's sort of our trademark defensive malfunction. Other players we want to spotlight. This is a tweet from James Lambert. After tonight, DC United is 5-2-3 when Andy Nahar plays, including Open Cup, with a loss to Toronto where he comes off the bench and a draw against Montreal where they crumble after he goes off. They're 1-3-6 without him. Essential. He was dynamic this entire game. He is a player that it's all about his body betraying him. If you could transplant his hamstrings with a 20-year-old's, he would be completely unstoppable. When he's healthy, he's a must start. And I think you can even try to protect him, but I don't think it even matters. I think DC United is now just like, we're just going to let him burn bright. We're just going to make sure he's healthy, but then just throw him out there and let him do his thing because no one else can do what he can do. And he can dribble out of problems. He can take on players. He is he's great to link up to the midfield and to the attack every single time. It's just you don't blink and miss how impactful he's been for this team this year.
It's really his ability on the dribble. He just is able to just get into those spaces. I think that's why he picks up injuries, because then he's also going to pick up fouls. And like you said, I think I talked with someone, a friend of mine who's a fan, and he said, well, he needs to just be a off the bench guy. And I just think you can't right now with this team. Like, it would be awesome if we could afford to do that, and we could have the ability to not have him as an everyday out and out starter, that we could sort of bring him in when the situation calls, because I think that could be a really effective part of him. The fact of the matter is we don't have that. Particularly we don't have that now that Mohamed Jaz is now on the season ending injury list and done. So,
broken ankle.
Disappointing. And really, that one's one. I think a lot of people were already quick to go to what is DC doing in the physio room. This seems like one of those things that happens when you smash someone tackle and you just break your ankle.
I will say this: Nigel Roberto, broken ankle. Jazzy, broken ankle. Ted Coutinho, messed up ankle. I think somebody in practice is I'm thinking it's Pedro Santos. I think Luis O'Brien or Pedro Santos is kicking everybody in the ankle. I think that's what's happening. Andy Nahar also, but the last time he got injured was when he came off the bench against Nahaka. So yeah. Keeping him off the bench will not keep him uninjured. It's just like a clock it's gonna hit every time it's gonna click, and then it's gonna hit the bar where it's gonna buzz. So So
you hope that you can keep him healthy through the rest of this stretch. He then gets a rest. Maybe you don't play him. I think maybe you leave him out of Leagues Cup. I think you maybe leave him out of that whole tournament, or maybe you play him a little bit. knowing how important it is to come down to sort of the final run of the season. But again, he was excellent. Another player I want to highlight is Matthias Klick. Obviously, he gets the assist on the
weird goal. So that was him. I guess.
That was him on the cross. But he also, I thought, was again very effective. Another player that's quietly. I'm debating whether I want to start the. I'm trying to think of like other newcomers this year that have played exceptionally well. I'm sure there are some, but
I think he would probably. I don't know, but that would be a good thing. That's some homework for us over this week. Who are the real newcomers of the year? Possible candidates. I feel like there has to be someone that's been more productive. He would be a hard sell.
Yeah, I think. But I mean, you look at the stats. I mean, I think it comes from his agent, whatever his agent company
Steve?
is. No, his agent. There's an agent. His agent, I think, has company post stats for him all the time. They talk about the amount of chances he creates, the amount of passes he connects. What he does sort of on the analytics side. I think he is a vastly. I think across DC, I think we appreciate his talent and his skill and what he brings to this team. But I think across the league. And he's not racking up. He's racking up some assists, but he's also not racking up the goals. So I think maybe that might hurt him in the kind of that attacking role. But I'd be curious to see when we start getting down to that. I mean, I'm not saying he'll win it, but I'm saying maybe we get a nomination or two out of him. And we have the summer too, and that, maybe that just goes to Lionel Messi if he breaks if he gets Inter Miami into the playoffs. So
we can also talk about Derek Williams, who scores his first MLS goal. The thing I want to say about this that's funny is I read an FC Cincinnati recap about it, and they called it a slotted goal, and he did not slot that. He spanked it. Like, I'm sorry, that is some homerism. He did not slot that ball. The first goal was slotted. Derek Williams spanks that ball and scores his first goal off it was a bit of a broken play. I believe off a short corner. It's been a little bit now, but again. I hear a lot. So you always wonder with defenders when they score, like that's when everyone starts talking about him. But I would say the last couple of weeks, people are saying Derek Williams is our most surprising acquisition. No one really expected much out of him. They said, "Wow, he's being overpaid. LA Galaxy are letting him go for nothing. This is a weird move." But when he's been fit, he's not really been in the center of mistakes. And I think that is something that fans of this team are looking. You mentioned before about Steve missing and people having a lot to say about that. I think Derek Williams has been Mr. Consistent out of the back line. Donovan Pines has probably been the second most consistent, which is wild if you go back in time to not too many episodes ago. For listening to either of us saying words, you will not have expected me to say that, but that's the truth. And Brendan Heinzlake is now just really getting back to quasi of himself. He had a really sort of daring clearance, which I said at the time when I was watching. Any other game this year, that's an own goal, like a just a Sports Center not top 10 own goal. But every sort of thing that could break right for the team broke right. I think Barrial, shot and hit the side of the post from 6 yards out. A number of sort of daring sliding clearances where the ball could have gone anywhere, but it just went in the right spot. It was, like I said, I've already said it. We cashed in all of our chits on this, and just to talk about the final like sort of stat thing. We also have a goal from Kristen Dahome, another not really beautiful goal. These were all sort of Derek Williams' was the peach, but gets an opportunity around the end line, dribbles, and then slots it through the
legs of the keeper.
I want to say through the 5-hole, but through his legs, and that was that. And he ran 80 yards down the field to dance with his assistant coaches, and he looked very, very happy and very, very dorky. Yeah. So I'm happy for him in that.
Probably the most fortuitous goal of the bunch. And he also did, I mean, you talk about his play in this game. I mean, yes, he doesn't get an assist or he doesn't set up, but on the Derek Williams goal, Donovan Pines jumps up, wins the header, I think most importantly, and that ball falls beautifully for Dahome. The keeper for Cincy comes out and makes a nice save. And, I think it was still a good opportunity and a nice run for him. This team is really getting, I think one thing that's been the most interesting to watch is how effective this team has gotten on sort of those second set plays. I think this is why they're playing short corners, why they're trying to try some different things with set plays, because they have when Donovan Pines is out there, when Benteke is out there, they are an incredibly They are an incredibly big team, and they have a lot of targets that they can utilize for that. So I think it's a smart move to try to utilize those set plays. But I think their past few games they've gotten at least a few goals off set plays. I don't know what their numbers are exactly, but I feel like that's something they become very, very, very good at, is on those set plays. So obviously, Fortuna's goal for Christian Dahome. You've neglected to mention too the pass from Tyler Miller. Maybe gets a secondary assist on that. I don't know. I'll maybe give it to him a little bit. And I think speaking about Benteke, he is not. He does not win the ball in that play, but he creates a presence that two Cincy defenders have to basically try to mark him to try to win the ball. And Dahome is able to then slip in behind and have the space to make that run and to score that goal. So again, showing Benteke's presence is more than just, when he heads the ball into the back of the net or he wins a header. It's his presence in general causes those spaces to open up. And you think if this team, we'll talk about some, maybe hopefully not some signings coming in. You got to maybe look at some more speed out wide if you can, especially if you can hold on to Lewis O'Brien. You don't need to fill that role for the window. Any other news? Obviously, Taxi Funtas came out, subbed onto this game. I wonder if that's kind of being cautious with him. I keep thinking there's maybe more going on with him, that they haven't really been trying to rush him back, or
probably just coming back. He played both games in the international
That's
window,
true.
and he flew across
That's
the world.
True. That's true.
And in a limited time, he got a red card for FC Cincinnati on a second yellow. So drew a foul on the top of the 18. So job done.
Yeah, he showed really well. Again, he comes on sort of at 3-0. Not a lot really expected of him. Because again, the team's not looking to score. The second half was kind of boring. I mean, other than you said there was an opportunity for Cincy, probably their best opportunity of the game where they hit the post. I think overall, it was really a solid performance from everybody. There really isn't a performance that stood out as necessarily weak to the team's credit, their job probably in this game, was simpler for them. When you don't have Brenner, you don't have Brendan Vasquez, you just have Lucho basically as like your next level attacker. Your job is you need to shut down Lucho. And Lucho had maybe a few opportunities cut about. By the way, apparently there was some, this is also from CAD 95. Also worth mentioning, Acosta getting put on blast, and
my friend Nancy sat in that section and said my friend Nancy said he got a beer thrown at him, and they threw the guy out, and then the guy let the guy back in who did it. So
no, never mind. No, not a good thing. Never mind. I'm going to stop reading.
Also,
yeah.
He was also pumping up, like they were booing him, but not very loudly. So he was doing the WWF, like pumping the crowd up to get them to the boo louder, and then he was happy about it. I like it. I think he knows. I think he knows what the deal is there. I think
the beer getting thrown at might have been like, come on, dude. Yeah, yeah. I appreciate the WWE style,
the heel turn.
Give me more of that. Give me more of that drama. Maybe that was something that was missed. Maybe we needed some more drama out of that game.
Down 3-0 is when he was doing that, which is funny.
It's funny. I think there were some posts I've seen to be at least one post, someone saying they need to fire Pat Noonan for this game. Absolutely not. I mean, if you want to, go ahead. We'll swoop in and take him. But yeah. So 3-0 victory. Anything else we want to drop about this game, or?
No, I think the only thing we want to talk about is the fact that when we talked about winnable games over the course of this month, this is not the game that we had as a W.
Nope.
And this is also, it is not. But also in sort of the lining up of fortuitous events, where our next game is Nashville on the 1st. And Nashville has lost against Columbus and against Montreal and hasn't scored in 2 weeks.
Yeah, and a big part of that again is teams have figured out they've sort of shut down Hani Mukhtar.
We haven't figured that out yet. So if we do that, that'll be the first time we've ever done it. So hopefully that's what happens.
Well, we did in the last game. He didn't score. It was Alex Mule. Remember the armpit goal. So we did shut him down.
That's right.
We did shut him down at home. Different policy. I also will argue that I'd rather them be riding high and thinking and kind of overlooking us a little bit than like, oh, we need to correct this.
You don't want the Toronto.
Yeah, I do not want the Toronto, especially because they're a good team and we've seen how bad TFC is. I mean, talk about just like absolute class. I mean, I will say, I think Bob Bradley is a good coach, and I think he is in a bad situation in Toronto. I think it was a a situation in which I think there was very clear that there were some big name players that did not want him there. We'll see who they hire next.
He's not a big personality coach. He's not a big personality. That was a horrible fit.
Yeah.
That is not the guy you want for that. He is a guy that's going to take he's going to mold players into a unit. And now LAFC obviously is a different situation. You had Carlos Vela, you had other high powered players, but I think his best suit is to do it in a different way. That's just a collective belief kind of guy versus.
I do not think he will be far without a job in MLS. I think there will be
whatever he wants, probably.
Yeah, and I will tell you, if he's available and Wayne Rooney doesn't stay, would I want DC to hire him? And I know a lot of old heads, including myself, will remember the Cheatin' Bob. My dad texted me and said Cheatin' Bob just got fired. I mean, the whole incident that happened. If you haven't seen it, go look up MLS Storytime Theater, and I think they call it Bob and the Great Switcheroo. Go watch that video, and I don't know if it quite does justice to watching that live and seeing that happen, and just how much that sucked. But if he's available,
we are being old.
Yeah, we are. If he's available, yeah. You can also watch the full game too on MLS Season Pass. You can actually go watch it. A litless game, a regular season game from the hot summer in 2003 or something like that.
I dare you to do that, listeners. If you do that, tweet at us, and then I'll send you a sticker, because I think that would be a very cool thing for you to do.
Especially if you haven't seen it before. If you haven't seen it, you could talk about some of the players that DC had on that team. They were not a good team that year. But anyway, yes. But I mean, he would be a coach. I would say I would want DC to go and immediately grab and hire if he's not available, because he would be probably the best coaching talent available if Wayne doesn't stay. So.
Well, you're talking about Coach of the Week, Wayne Rooney, who won that award this week. So he's got to keep.
If Wayne Rooney stays, I'm not necessarily opposed to it. I mean, I think that means at least we get another year of this project. Maybe we can build on some things. It's clear that he is a draw. Like, we look at Lewis O'Brien, we look at Benteke, players that were brought in because he was going to be the coach. And I'm not sure we get those players if he's not the coach. So I want another year of Rooney, because I want at least maybe another year of this project that I think is better than we thought. And I think there are some very legitimate building blocks that this team could have for maybe being even better next year.
I just had a funny thought about a team that needs a coach right now. And I just talked about how he's a horrible fit for teams with big personalities. Wouldn't it be funny if Bob Bradley went to Inter Miami and coached?
They've already got Tata Martino. They've already got.
Is it already? Lined up?
I mean, it's basically going to happen. I mean, that's just.
Well, that was before they knew Bob Bradley was available. You see, it's all changing. It might change the calculus.
I think if you're Inter Miami, you do not. You want to make sure you know this. Yeah, I think you stick with what you got. You stick with the coach that's won a MLS championship in a while, a coach that knows Messi, or at least has some experience with them. I think that's what you do with that.
Let's imagine other funny coaches. Bruce Arena coaching Lionel Messi would also be very funny to me. It's going to be this is by the way, let's take a 5-second diversion. This is going to be a show for people who have been listening for a while, and like us, and like hearing our talking about weird stuff. Not for game analysis. If you're a new listener, I apologize to you. This is not totally what you're going to get in a normal week. But that aside, I think it would be a very funny exercise to think about the worst coaching fit for Lionel Messi in MLS. I think that would be a good project. Also, like, if you think about the Beckham rules, that would be great. Oh my God, that's amazing. That would be a great one.
A battle of egos, man, on that front.
Man. I was just thinking, like, the Beckham rules that were in place about sort of the flexibility he got, and I think he's going to have a lot of those, and I would love to. I'm sure there will be books written about this time period, because I will want to know all the inside stuff after it's done. But I think I just want to draw a contrast. Obviously, Wayne Rooney was not Lionel Messi at any point, but when Wayne was here, he really turned down all of those perks. He really, really put himself on whatever the guys get, I get. Mm-hmm. Kind of, he had a roommate on the road. It was Steve Birnbaum. I don't think Messi's going to have a roommate on the road. I think Messi might have a hotel to himself when they're on the road. I think it's entirely possible that he gets what he wants.
We'll see. Yeah, I mean, that's going to be an interesting thing. Obviously, even the nature of MLS, I think, as far as I know, based on what I see in the videos, the teams all fly private private jets. They're not taking commercial anymore. That
he might get his own PJ just as like a one man situation, like he gets to fly later.
Yeah, so I mean,
goes with his
I think the travel situation, the travel situations, the training, all of that has become much more professional, even in the 5 years since. And it was COVID that did that. It was COVID that basically said, and they basically, I think they just can't walk it back now. Like once you break that, it's like to try to go back, and then you risk losing all this talent that you've brought in, who have become used to it now. It becomes utilized.
Go sit in economy. Go sit in economy plus. Leo Messi.
Speaking of Messi, if there is anybody listening. There's anybody listening to our show who's thinking about traveling 1,200 miles to see Messi. I don't know how real that whole picture was. Did you see that picture? Someone,
the one in Argentina.
Yeah, no. Someone had a sign at the Philly Inter Miami game.
Oh, that was definitely fake.
Might have been fake, but I want to get the message out there. Messi will not be at Audi Field on July 8th. Not going to happen. They've already confirmed it. Not going to happen.
I have a coworker, so when Messi got signed, he's like, should I keep my tickets? I'm like, absolutely, you should sell them right now before anyone finds out that he's not going to be there, because he's not going to be there. And then he sold them for 3 times face. And he's like, I'm going to buy it. He's like, I wonder if I can buy them back for below face. I was like, I bet you can. I bet you can. Keep your eyes out. That would be very funny. I recommend that.
It's funny. Yeah, find yourself another. And there's going to be a bunch of people that are going to be showing up thinking Messi
so mad
that he's not going to be there. That's good, and that's the thing, man. That's the thing about this. That's why I think this is why they're delaying the announcement as long. I think the contract's done, but I think they're delaying the announcement because they don't want to piss people off that they think, oh, I see the announcement, that means he's going to be playing the next game. When in reality, they're really waiting until I think the Leagues Cup. I think MLS. I mean, if you want to talk about what MLS wants to be successful, it wants the Leagues Cup to be successful. So I think having him debut at the Leagues Cup is
it's funny. It's a funny choice. It's like having him for Superliga. It's like
yeah, but I mean MLS really. I mean, you're talking about something that and people say, well, it's all about money. Of course, it's about money. Yeah, but it's something they really want to be sort of a big time tournament, and they really are investing a lot of resources in it. But besides that, speaking of Messi, James Lambert, something that might kickstart Apple TV subscriptions. We had some
even more because the surprising part is it may be better off than all of us thought it was.
Yeah, the news coming out is apparently MLS sources have confirmed. I believe this came from Awful Announcing. That Apple has basically the amount of subscriptions that Apple set for revenue sharing, which gets shared with the players. There's a part of it that gets shared with the players. They are apparently nearing that subscription mark, and this is all before Messi even sees the field. I don't know if the boost may have come from the start of Messi, but I think we talked about this deal and we talked about whether it would be successful or not. There's been a lot of people complaining. I will say I have seen people that when the price dropped, they were like, "All right, I think I'm gonna make the splurge."
I like that they dropped. They're like, "Oh, it's cheaper now." It's like, yeah, because half the season is over. It's now 50% off.
Yeah,
yes, it is indeed a price drop in a certain way for sure.
Yeah, but I mean, it makes a lot of sense. I know they've also done a lot of marketing with it to try to boost the numbers.
They've given away 5 million of them, billion of them through T-Mobile. They've given them all, and they're definitely counting those. By the way, those are all counting in the same bucket.
Yeah,
but yeah, it's the league will get a cut. The players will get a cut. It's 12.5% of the increase in media revenue this year if it exceeds 100 million of the compensation, which was about $65 million when excluded fees paid to the USMNT. It's all, if you're going to get deep into the world of media rights compensation in the United States, you're going to get a headache. But needless to say, the headline here is everyone thought, oh my God, they have an opt-out clause. They're going to get out of this. They're going to leave this, and then we're going to be back at Flow Sports. And then Phil Schiller, Apple SVP heads content, was like, actually, we're pretty happy with this. We don't give you numbers because we don't give you numbers on anything. But we were surprised, and not surprised, but we're pleasantly happy about this. And it's year one. It's only going to go up. And now today we find out that it's as successful as they needed it to be. And now with Messi coming here, I think the bump hasn't happened.
Yeah. Oh no.
I think most people have been sleeping on the fact that if they want to watch him, they have to pay for something. If you were a non-MLS fan, you're just like, oh, sweet, I'll just watch him on Fox or whatever when he gets here. And then you'll be like, oh, wait, hold on. What exactly? I have to do what? Okay, sure.
And I think a really underrated, I've said from the beginning that I think an underrated, everybody's thinking in the context of the United States. And like, if this was just a deal for the United States, it would be much harder to get those rights deals. But because it's a worldwide deal, it makes it much, much easier, I think, to hit maybe some of those numbers because, and I'm not saying, I think in Europe, I'm sure it's pretty low. I think that's just due to the time difference. You're talking games at 2 a.m. It's probably just, James from DC, UK, and a couple other people would be my guess out there. But, you're talking maybe places in South America, Mexico, obviously Canada. I'm sure Spain. Spain's still,
I guess,
time difference and everything.
They'll still wake up to watch Messi.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And when you bring Messi in, I think that's certainly changed. I think you're going to have a lot of people in Spain that are going to jump on board, watch it just to see the games afterwards. And the fact that it's that worldwide deal, I think speaks a lot to maybe some people underestimating what popularity they would get about it because it's spread out so much. You only need, if you get a few thousand people to sign up in Mexico, or a few 100,000, 200,000 people, that's a big difference in what you can bring. So,
Ted, I think we should consider becoming Inter Miami podcast. I think we should think.
We're going to talk Messi, man. We're going to talk the league. This is all the league in general. So,
well, we're going to talk Messi. You better believe, and we're going to start tagging all of our tweets hashtag Messi. That's sweet SEO. I think that anybody that's currently in sort of the supporter led media side, I know that Total Football Miami, I believe, was a group that we've been on one time. Mm-hmm. Their mentions are about to be uninhabitable. And also there's going to be so many people that have never watched MLS before that are going to see like an Inter Miami. And by the way, Inter Miami is awful.
Oh yeah, they're terrible.
They're in last place, and they since the news has come out, they have not won. I believe they've not scored, but I know that for sure they've not won. Yeah. They're going to watch this team. Messi's going to roll out there, and they're going to be like, "Oh my God, this is bad. This is horrible. It's going to be a Montreal Miami game," and then they're just going to. Twitter's just gonna be so bad. It's gonna be uninhabitable.
We'll see. When you remember, we saw when Wayne Rooney came here, there were players that we were like, "There's no way this player's terrible, trash, everything." And then suddenly it's like Wayne Rooney's on the field, and there's just like a little bit of an extra pep, a pep in the step. I still think they missed the playoffs. I think they could go on like an unbelievable winning streak to close the season.
The league would like to see that.
Yeah, the league would like to see that. I think they will just miss the playoffs, to be honest, because I think they are going to be in too much of a hole because they are kind of in a holding pattern. They still don't have a coach hired. They still don't have a philosophy. I think this year will just be about Messi getting in there. He'll create some highlights. They'll get some wins out of it because he's Messi, and they'll have a direction and an identity. And then it's just about, all right, then next year, the shackles of the penalties for the game come off. You have a roster that is essentially gutted that you can now sort of build around Lionel Messi. So
imagine you're the Inter Miami social media person that got hired last year, and they're like, "All right, we need you to make sure that Gonzalo Higuain fans are following us and producing that content." And then all of a sudden you find yourself in this pickle. I have a feeling that they're going to be hiring 1 million people at Inter Miami.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
There's the comms, marketing, security, you name it. I think it's just going to be one of the largest front offices in the league.
I wonder.
It's going to have
to. I wonder how much they're going to try to maybe quicken getting the stadium built, or how many games they're going to try to move. They obviously moving the games to Hard Rock away from Durf Pink. I think that's been talked about a lot. Is how the stadium is just not ready for Messi. So yeah, it's going to be fun. I'm going to watch it. I think one of the criticisms of the debut, I believe it's during the U.S. women's national team game, in the middle of it. So we got double screens. We live in a double screen life. We'll be two screening it. I think so. And the game will probably start beforehand, so we can kind of shift. Once the game kind of gets started in the pop and circumstance and everything. So we can shift. I don't know if I'll sit and watch an entire Inter Miami versus Cruz's game, but anyway, let's hit some DC. First, I do want to make sure we get into our Twitch comments. If you want to join our live show, we do it Monday every day at 8:30 p.m. Trying to get some more people in that. We've got RJ in DC has Pine submitted himself as that he's the best center back on the team.
He almost scored another crab soccer goal in this game. He tried. It didn't work out, but he did try.
I think you're kind of right. I think as far as consistency, I would say Derek Williams, I think, has submitted himself as the most consistent. I think Pines has the ability to use his immense physical traits to really when he is on, I think he is probably our best defender. But he also still is he's not perfect. And we've seen a couple lapses in him. I would argue they are not as tragic, and they are less they're more like routine. They're not like the types of tragic chances that we saw. So I think he's certainly up there. Let's get into rumor news. Let's close out this on rumor news. We got the transfer window coming up. A lot of talk has been done. DC does now have an extra international slot and an extra roster slot because they have placed Jazzy on the season-ending list. I keep going back and forth on whether they get cap relief. We also don't know what the situation is with Ravel Morrison's cap. I have tried to find out that information. Again, MLS rules are opaque as they always are. Really love to know like if he actually counts. I've heard some people say no, he doesn't. I've heard some people say he does.
Also, why is Nigel Robertha not on the season-ending list?
Yeah, I guess he's going to come back, right? Like in theory,
so.
he's still injured. But this is from Pop. So basically, we all saw a report, I think, from the tabloids around England.
It was from like Icelandic 442, which is also owned by apparently a tabloid.
Yeah. But it's and I'm proud of it. I'm going to butcher this name. Hopefully, we'll get into why. Hopefully, we don't need to say this.
Gylfi
Sigurdsson. 33-year-old, soon to be 34-year-old, attacking midfielder from Everton. 4 or 5 years ago, this would have been like a slam dunk, unbelievable move.
And he's been mentioned before, by the way. This is not the first time he's been mentioned.
Yeah, he's been mentioned as a potential player. I believe he's played some time at Swansea, if I recall correctly.
That's right.
So he's played some time in Wales. So it's a very much a deep DC connection. There is also a tremendous red flag legal issue, of which he was arrested for. They couldn't even name him due to rights. In fact, The Athletic actually can't say specifically what he's been accused of because they are based out of England, and there is actually a law in England that says if someone is arrested, you are not allowed to say who it is, and you cannot report them or do anything. But basically, he's arrested, but he was not charged, and basically the charges were dropped due to insufficient evidence. Make that as what you will. I think, Ed, go ahead. You were to say something?
No, I was just saying, there was a lot of conversation about this in our Discord this morning.
Mm-hmm.
And Angus, who is not a lawyer but plays one on TV, was talking sort of like the difference between the European legal system and the American legal system is that, and the reason they don't necessarily allow you to be named as someone who's been arrested but not charged is because they kind of arrest first, and then decide and gather evidence and prosecute later. At that point, they'll let you go, but they'll arrest you depending on the charge. Here, it's a little bit different, where they want to make sure that the ducks are on a row. They've got to go before a judge. It's a different standard of evidence. It's apples and oranges, the legal systems. But I think my overall takeaway on this was the charge that he was accused of but not found guilty of, and not found enough evidence to prosecute, is awful.
Yeah,
I've heard specifics now. The specifics are that I think, again, this is all hearsay because it's not really allowed. They're not really allowed to get into it. I think that the idea is that he texted someone who was under 18, but there was nothing occurred. There was no occurrence of anything. Still weird. Don't do that. I would also hope that I would get cleared from that a lot faster if I was erroneously charged with such a thing, because I would not be. Never mind. I guess I feel like you don't get yourself in that situation, so it's a little bit easier.
Yeah.
I am for second chances. I'm specifically for people with second chances that have not been convicted of something. However, there's no obligation that DC United be the team that gives him a platform to rehabilitate his image, see if he can still play after a year off. I just don't think. I think the juice is probably not worth the squeeze on this. Would be my thing.
Yeah, and sort of the nature of how this went is, it was leaked out to the tabloids. Then it was sort of, leaked to, or Pablo Maurer had sources, I think, along with Tom Bogart. Probably
the DC United dads are fighting on journalism.
Let me get into that. I don't think Stephen Goff was talking about Pablo. He was talking about Pablo Maurer, but Pablo Maurer basically saying that yes, there are preliminary discussions, and I think a lot of people were saying that Goff was. We'll get to Goff's tweet earlier, but that this was that he was calling Pablo tabloid. I don't think he was. I think Pablo was just as certainly trying to get people to click the Athletic article and read it. So maybe, the headline is like sort of maybe more engaged, but if you sort of read it, there's no offer on the table. They're not really discussing terms. I think, again, DC is trying to compile a list of players. Their cap situation and international roster slot situation is not really that great right now. They're pretty much filled up. I'm guessing this means that, they're not planning on buying out Ravel Morrison's contract. They're just going to kind of let that ride. But you talk about their situation with that and how they're maybe a little bit so they're compiling a list of players, and here's a guy that would undoubtedly be cheap. And, is it in, and I think that's maybe the aspect they're looking for is they can fit him under their cap. And, maybe if he turns out good, then he'll be, great. But I think like you, I agree. I don't think DC should be the team to do this. I would much rather them sign nobody. I would say just roll with this than sign him, to be honest, if I'm being honest here. Not just also for the crimes, but also he's going to be 33, 34. He's been out of soccer.
In a year.
Has 2 years, I think is what I saw. He hasn't played soccer for 2 years. So he will be undoubtedly rusty. I'm not sure what he would bring to this team. And I think that we've seen this team attach itself and already have issues with certain players that they've brought in who have had legal troubles in the past. And I feel like this is starting to maybe become an issue if this advances further. What is this team doing with like trying to? And again, I'm not the Mohamed Jazzy's separate. I'm talking more about what happened with Ravel Morrison. It's like we can't be the team. We can't. Sometimes you just can't bring players in and try to fix them. Like
we're not the land of misfit toys. We don't need to be at this point. It's like it's very much like a. It's like a situation when you have no money and you have to like buy at the buy used toys or something. I don't know. Like you're in a situation where you got to take what you can get. We're not in that situation anymore, man. Like we don't necessarily need to do this. There are so many places that he could go, and he has not been able to speak about this. I don't know. We don't know the details. I don't know anything. I don't know anything. But the circus that will surround it, for me, isn't worth it.
Yeah.
To your point. Maybe no move is better than a move that once again puts us on the front page for not soccer things, for things that are horrible.
Yeah,
anyway. We'll see. I bet this doesn't happen. If I had to bet, I would say this is unlikely to happen. But
yeah,
there's a list of names, and the conversations are happening. So the team is not willing to sit pat in this.
And it seemed to me that the team wanted to get out and say that they are apparently hiring some independent investigation firm to do the background check on him.
And they should.
They absolutely should.
Because they're not good at it.
So I don't think the team is just looking at this from a purely soccer perspective. I think they're also very concerned about it because they know what this will bring. And I think this would be something that would bring more heat than it'd be worth. Like you said,
more heat than light.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Next week we got away versus Nashville, like we talked about. They are coming off 3 losses. Stop Hani Mukhtar. That's our analysis on that. Stop Hani Mukhtar. You might win this game. I believe they are. Are they without Walker Zimmerman? I believe he's with it.
He would be. I believe he's with the Gold Cup.
I believe he's with the Gold Cup too. So that's a big loss for them. I think Joe Willis is still there. He's still good. So
them being scoreless in 2 weeks though is a wild situation. So
the biggest thing where they're missing a number 9. Like they have not been able to find a number 9. So it literally is Hani Mukhtar doing something or setting something up and being that scorer. I mean, they got CJ Spawn went to Toronto, right?
Yeah, I know who you're thinking about. You're thinking of Teal Bunbury, who is injured.
I thought he's with no, he's with Toronto.
According to FootMob, he's with Nashville still.
Yeah. He's according to FootMob.
He played on June 17th.
Okay, so they traded him. No, he says he's with. Anyway, yeah, I think he was traded to Toronto. So I mean, they've lost the striker. Again, they're looking for that number 9 striker that they don't have right now, and I think that's been their biggest problem. That's the spot they need to fill. So it's an opportunity for DC to maybe pick up some points or to pick up a win. I'd still say they need to go out and I want to count the Cincinnati game because that's a good team, but also it's still a home game. And I'm still on the fence of like, you still got to go out and win your home games. So you need to go out and do something on the road before maybe I really get serious about considering this team ready to play. So I think a draw would be fine. Let's go. What's your prediction for this game?
1-1 or 0-0.
I'm going 1-1 too.
1-1.
I think again, this is not a team that's going to blow you out. This is a team that's going to play a really close game. So hopefully we can do it less dramatically than the home game. All right, folks.
Nothing to VAR.
Exactly. That'll do it. Thank you so much, folks, for listening. Remember, if you're on the live show, check us out a little bit later. We will have the Kindred Spirits show. We talk in Washington Spirit. And then also check out Kindred Spirits if you're listening on the podcast. Also, if you want to listen to both shows without having to do anything, go donate to our Patreon page, patreon.com/RFK Refugees. Thank you guys so much for listening. We'll catch you guys next week. Vamos.
Vamos.